Hello and welcome back to another episode. Today I'm delighted to have a special guest, Kim Downey. Welcome to the show, Kim.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
It was my pleasure. Let's get started by having you tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, very briefly, I'm a pediatric physical therapist by training, and I recently had cancer 3 times during the pandemic. And when I thought I'd finally be moving forward, I found out that one of my beloved doctors died by suicide, and it changed my whole life. So now I've become a fierce advocate for physician well being.
I remember during the pandemic, I remember reading about a doctor, I believe she was in New York, who jumped out the window because the amount of pain and suffering she saw was just phenomenal. And I was a hospital-based physician at the height of the pandemic. So when all this happened, I was one of the doctors who had to dress up in the hazmat suits and go into
Mhm.
rooms you didn't know if you're going to take stuff home to your family,
Right.
if you were going to be around in a couple of weeks. It was extremely, extremely traumatic. So thank you for your pivot, um, because there's just no words for that. And then, aside from COVID, there are many other issues that may come up in the future, but just the trauma of being on the front line caring for people who are suffering and dying regularly is huge. So thank
Right.
you.
Well, you're welcome and thank you. So to double click on what you said, like people do need to know what it was like for doctors, because a lot of people worked remotely at that time, but doctors, had to go in and fearing for their life. And my husband as a pulmonologist, and he shared, actually I've had him on Stand Up for Doctors. I have a podcast as well, and he's a pulmonologist and critical care physician, and he separated from his family. It was 4 or 6 months. He lived in the basement. His wife would leave him food at the top of the stairs
Yeah.
because he didn't know. So, like, the doctors really did that, and they still showed up every day. And some doctors and nurses, really did lose their lives. So, just thank you that you still showed up for patients. And also, I've become an ambassador for the Dr. Lorna Breen Heroes Foundation because Dr. Lorna Breen was a physician, in the during the pandemic in New York City, who also died by suicide. And now we're just trying to have mental health access for all healthcare workers, confidential when they need it, and removing the barriers and stigma to accessing mental health support.
I think that that is huge. I was like the doctor. I stepped in the basement for months with the spiders,
Oh,
because you didn't know, you didn't want to risk killing your family over
right.
your job. So yeah, I can fully appreciate that. And there is a stigma, we are trained to be strong no matter what happens. It's kind of like the captain goes down with the ship. If your patient has something and you could potentially die from it, you just suck it up and you go take care of them. That's what we signed up for, but we're human, and there's a difficult side of that as well. And, honestly, there are a lot of physicians, but we have also moved to having a lot of nurse practitioners and physician's assistants. And, I was very blessed where I worked. Some of the nurse practitioners, they were just as good as the doctors, and I would have let them take care of me or my family. But the medical field is really widening, and a lot of us basically do the same thing, whether it's MD or PA or NP. And so there are a lot of people who really need this kind of support.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and anyone can become an ambassador for the Dr. Lorna Breen Heroes Foundation. They do have some of the ambassadors are physicians. So, it's a wonderful place for resources for anyone who's looking for that for mental health support.
Okay. All right. So, what would you tell the average person about dealing with doctors? I mean, realizing that, doctors are people too, and we're going to have trauma and drama, and our days are not always going to be hunky dory and smiling. So what would be a message that you would give the average person?
So, exactly to what you already said is doctors are human too. And I would like to share that we have a book series, and our first book is White Coat's Courageous Hearts. And this is the stories of 15 physicians. And our newest book is White Coat's Human Hearts. And this shares the
Mhm.
stories of 11 physicians, two physician spouses, and two patients. And the subtitle is True Stories of Healing, Belonging, and the Courage to Stay Human in Medicine. So I would like to share with the audience that doctors appreciate gratitude so much. In a kind word from you or a thank you, written or verbal, can change the doctors have shared it changes the trajectory of their entire day. So, not to underestimate the power of a thank you.
I agree completely. I remember one day during the height of the pandemic, I mean, all of the days were emotionally taxing, but one day I walked out of the hospital to the doctor's area where you park, and there were multiple people, maybe 5 or 6 people with their Bibles out. They were Latino, they weren't speaking in English, but they were praying over the doctors. And I cannot tell you, I had no idea, what they were saying because they were speaking in Spanish, but I knew what they were doing. And that there's just no words for what that did walking out of a hospital filled with germs that you didn't know if you were ever going to manifest or live through. And you see these complete strangers just standing there, standing over our cars, praying for us. I don't think I ever forget that.
Yeah, well, that's a beautiful story and related as far as thanking doctors. The last time I spoke with my doctor who died by suicide was when he called me to thank me for my thank you note. And he said, patients like you are the reason I continue to do this. I'm sorry you're going through all this, but I'm looking forward to seeing you again. And I told him I was looking forward to seeing him again too. And he died 3 months later, but I didn't find out for a month after that till I showed up at an appointment expecting to see him, and he wasn't there. And I was shocked and devastated. There's no
Sure
words to
you must have
describe
been.
that.
I'm sure you must have been devastated. Those books sound very interesting. Could you hold them up again, please?
Sure. Yeah, so the first one is White Coats, Courageous Hearts, True Stories of Doctors Reclaiming Their Humanity in a System That Challenges It. And these are like beautiful, real stories that doctors are willing to share. And Kevin MD writes the endorsement on the back, and how he ends it, he says it's a must read for anyone truly seeking to truly understand the hearts behind the stethoscopes. So when doctors read this, they'll feel seen and heard because so many doctors walk around thinking they're the only one, like it's just me. But each of these stories are so different, and male and female physicians wrote these stories, so doctors will see themselves in parts of these stories and they'll feel less alone, but there's also messages of hope there. And the second book, that's White Coat's Human Hearts, is True Stories of Healing, Belonging, and the Courage to Stay Human in Medicine. And again, it's another book where doctors share their real stories from joining medicine because they wanted to feel a sense of belonging, but not feeling that sense of belonging, and what it took and how they finally found that. So they just share their journeys. Or a lot of people don't think about, well, they aren't even thinking about physicians, let alone physician spouses. And when you marry a physician, it's a kind of a life of sacrifice for the whole family. So just hearing the perspective from physician spouses, and then that we included a couple patients and just gratitude from patients. One had childhood cancer, and another one has Parkinson's and had the deep brain simulation that changed her life.
Mhm. Wow. That I mean, I met Kevin a couple of times. I had a couple of interviews through his channel. He is a phenomenal person, and those books sound incredibly awesome. So, where can people get the books?
On Amazon. They're both available on Amazon, and also people can go. My website is standupfordoctors.org. So we have a beautiful tab called Books. So if you go to the Books tab, you can see all of the authors for both books. Like you'll see a picture of the first book, and
Uh-huh.
then with pictures of all the authors. So, and also how people can find each of the authors. So it could be their LinkedIn profile or their website. So if people want to dig deeper and reach out to the doctors, or the other people that wrote the books, they can do that. So we have that for each of those. And I agree with you. So, Kevin MD, I'm on just about every month. I've been on his podcast. If you doesn't
All
comment,
right.
he loves it that I bring him, fresh voices. So, and the other thing is that it's not these books aren't just for doctors, because like patients, when they read this, like they'll see the humanity in their doctors, because some people have even shared with me that they never really thought about their doctors as human in any real way. It's like, because also you go and you're in distress, right? Whether it's chronically or acutely, and then they just show up with the white coats, and that they'll fix your problem or find the answer. But people don't think that they have lives. Any problem that you have, your doctor has it too. And just to be able to see, the humanity in each other, and that you're both humans, because I think that really deepens like the relationship and how it feels for the doctor and the patient.
Absolutely. Well, is there anything else you want to share with the audience?
Well, if you have any physicians listening, we're gathering this fall for a physician retreat in Windrose on Hudson in Ossining, New York. So there's another tab on my standupfordoctors.org website, and it's called Inaugural Physician Retreat. And for any of your listeners, there's a VIP 100 code to take $100 off the registration fee, and it's October 9th to 12th this year. And we would love, it's going to be a beautiful place. The CMEs are available for doctors who are interested in innovating, and also doctors looking for support. We have a wonderful team, and actually many of the authors from both of the books are coming. Dr. Simon Craig is coming all the way from Australia to deliver the keynote.
Wow.
And if you're available, I'd love to have you to meet you in person as well. And everyone coming is so excited, or share that information, with a doctor that you love. And then this book, like I'm giving it to all my doctors. I gave it to some of them for Doctor's Day, and this afternoon I get to visit one of my doctors, and I'm bringing him a copy of the book. So you could gift a copy to your doctor. And if you'd like to hear,
That's a great idea.
yeah, yes, I think so too. They would appreciate it so much. And one of my friends who had some health issues brought a copy to his doctor, and the doctor just looked so surprised that someone was giving him a gift. Like he doesn't think he'd ever experienced something like that before, and he was so grateful. And if you'd like to listen to the stories that inspired the conversations, my podcast. So if you look up Kim Downey or Stand Up for Doctors, you'll find me. But the podcast is called Stand Up for Doctors, and it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. And you'll get to hear those stories from the doctors themselves that inspired the chapters in our books.
That sounds wonderful. The next time you're on Kevin MD, tell Kevin I said hello.
I absolutely will. That'll be coming up in a few weeks, so I will do that.
Kim, this was great, and I hope people do get the book and they gift it to their doctors, and I'm sure the doctors would greatly appreciate that at the end of a difficult day, to walk in a room and have a gift just because the person thought that much of you. Because it's so often you just feel like you're giving, you give everything, you don't eat, you don't sleep, you don't get to go to the potty. The
Mhm.
mindset is just go, 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 help, 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 help. But for someone to say, hey, this is for you because you're special, I think that would be profound for so many people. So thank you for what you're doing.
You're
And thank
welcome.
you for being on the show.
You're welcome, and thank you. I really appreciated it, Anne. Thank you.
God bless. Bye bye.
Bye.